Thank you, Audrey and Rusty. Beautiful as ever. For our invocation is Wade Carlisle.
Please pray in your faith as I pray in mine. Our Father, thank you for this day, for this food, this fellowship, and for Rotary. In this time of uncertainty, keep us mindful of all that we have to be grateful for. As challenging as our current pandemic is, we have much to be grateful for, much more in fact than we deserve. As we head into an election, keep us ever mindful that the true government is not ours, but yours. Help us to elect a government that reflects yours. Help us to elect leaders who will uphold the law, who will not return evil for evil. As those around us will undoubtedly make comments that are rude, divisive, and bitter, help us as Rotarians to only say things that are the truth, fair to all concerned, that will build goodwill and better friendships and beneficial to all. We ask these blessings in your Son's name. Amen.
Thank you, Wade. That was great. For visiting Rotarians, we have Richard Pollard. Introduce them.
Happy Monday, everybody. I believe we have one visiting Rotarian, Travis McNeil. If you will stand up, please. And do we have any guests? Doc? Do we have someone with a microphone? Oh, Doc. Thank you.
All right, give me this microphone. As I was saying, this young man, I picked him up on the street last week, and we had a great conversation. So I said, you need to come to Rotary with me. You need to be in my Rotary Club. He said, I've already joined a Rotary Club on Main Street, but I want to come with you. Well, I was delighted. He ran the food bank in Augusta, Georgia, and now he's going to run he is the director of all the gospel mission. And he's with us today, but he has something very special that he wants to tell you about real quickly.
Boy, she's a salesman, isn't she? Real fast, Oliver Gospel's been working sometime right on 1120 Taylor Street, right beside the mission. We have opened today, a soft opening at 7 a.m., a state-of-the-art, probably the best coffee shop, and I will say a roastery because we roast our own beans. We'll be fully staffed. We were just blessed and honored. Two of the first baristas that we hired did come from our women's program at Toby's Place out on 2 Notch. So we're going to have a fantastic business and coffee, and it's a space that you can lease. We have a separate room you can rent. So drop by 1120. You can't miss it. It's right beside the ballet. William's known about this for some time. He's been watching the construction for 2 years. So and we're trying to improve the state of affairs on Taylor Street. All right. Thank you. Where's this mic go back to? Don't let me keep it. Do we have any other guests? All right, have a great day.
All right. Thank you for being here today. Travis, we appreciate you being here today. Thank you. Your predecessor was a longtime member of this club, as a matter of fact.
I'll be back.
Okay, great. Health and happiness, Audrey Brown.
Hey everybody. All right, on a sad note, many of you will remember Ken Morris, who came regularly and sold a variety of nuts and yummies around Christmas time. Ken passed away last week from Alzheimer's. And that actually leads into our message from the CART committee. The blue buckets on your table, y'all know what they look like. Clicky clanky is good, but folded money's better. Because it says 1 in 10 people over 65 has Alzheimer's. So if you look around this room, you know that's not good. People age 65 and older survive an average of 4 to 8 years after a diagnosis. Some live as long as 20 years. I recently had a friend whose mom passed away from Alzheimer's. She had it for 12 years. So this is not going to go away without our help, and whether we like it or not, it takes money to help. So if you can, please put something in the blue buckets. On a happier note, we heard last week about the Live on Lincoln event. Does anybody remember hearing about that last week? Like 3 people. Okay, well, it impacted more than 3 people, y'all. So the Coker Center hosted this event with LS3P as one of the presenting sponsors. Over 200 people attended. It was sold out, and all the proceeds from that event benefited our local arts organizations, including Columbia City Ballet, William Starrett, Columbia Classical Ballet, where is Lee Lumpkin? She's here in spirit if she's not here. The Philharmonic, Town Theater, the School of Music, Mark Rapp Group. I mean, now let's think about it, y'all. During a pandemic, if we didn't have a radio to turn on or a video to watch, hello. We need to make sure we're supporting our arts organizations, because quite frankly, it is art that has helped us through this. I'll step down off my soapbox for that. Who knows that Halloween is Saturday? Who else feels that it's maybe a little anticlimactic this year because we've already been wearing a mask and eating candy for 8 months? Yeah, some of us call it COVID-30 because we're overachievers. But just a little bit of trivia about Halloween and so forth. So trick-or-treating in the U.S. began in the 1920s, but began in the 16th century over in Europe. It was only paused one time so far in our nation, and that was during World War II due to sugar rationing. Halloween is the 2nd largest commercial holiday in the United States, with people spending roughly $9 billion. That's with a B. Awful lot of candy. Illinois produces up to 5 times more pumpkins than any other state and has more than 15,000 acres devoted to growing pumpkins, yielding more than 500 million pounds of pumpkins. That's a lot of pumpkin to chunk, y'all. The most popular candy is Skittles. What? I know some of y'all wanted it to be candy corn, which has the dubious distinction of being in the top 10 of favorites and also voted the worst candy. It's a twofer. Keene, New Hampshire holds the record for most jack-o'-lanterns on display. In October 2013, they broke the current record and had 30,581 lit pumpkins around town. Harry Houdini, the magician, died on Halloween. And last but not least, this is kind of a spectacular year for Halloween. It occurs on a Saturday. It is a full moon. And we also fall back that same night. Daylight savings time ends. So that's the trifecta. I'm just going to take my pumpkin and stay inside. So y'all have a good Rotary week.
Thank you, Audrey. I think Kit Kat is the #1 choice of candy in the Hardy household. Snickers are always satisfying, so they say. Yeah, don't forget the blue buckets. Don't forget you can put a check in there and get a tax deduction as well. Please continue to eat. Don't forget, There is a mask ordinance, and we do ask you to wear this. We've had members of this club say they're not coming back because they didn't feel safe here. That's the last reason why we want people to not attend their lunches. When you're finished eating lunch and drinking your beverage, please put your mask on for the safety of yourself and those folks around you and the comfort of those people here as well. Speaking of masks, we have these nice, beautiful masks. If you haven't been here recently, for a $10 contribution, you can get one as well. They're available at the front desk, and you can also contact Brad. Those mask funding, we need to thank Jim Hudson and Keith Hudson here in our club for giving us some funds to help cover the initial cost of those masks. But the funds are going to be used for our food packing event that's going to be held here on December 5th at 9 o'clock. And we're going to be doing a food packing event to benefit those families at Richland 1. Remember, those kids come to school normally, and get food. But during the holidays, they don't normally have that opportunity. We're going to be packing food to let them take it home with them over the holidays. Richland 1 is back and seeing students face-to-face starting this week, by the way. Salvation Army bell ringing. Andy Shane is here. Just want to remind you all that just send him an email to tell him what day you want to be the day captain for our ringing of the bell for the Salvation Army. Locations to be determined. Now it's time for new member inductions. We're happy to have some new folks here that want to join our club. And I'm calling on past President Hal Stevenson to come do the induction of new members.
Good afternoon, everyone. If our new members and their sponsors, if they're here, come up to the front and face the club. We are really glad to have you all. I am going to introduce you and try not to make too many mistakes. Feel free to call me on it if I do. Our first inductee is T. Lowndes Pope. Lowndes. He was sponsored by Lanier Jones. Lowndes' wife is Lane. You got on there Coleman, I guess that's her maiden name?
That's correct.
All right, so if anybody know Lane Coleman. He lives at 1749 Graham Drive in Columbia. He is an attorney with Riley, Pope, and Laney, and his office is on Divine Street. He is a former Rotarian, who was formerly in the Capitol Club, right?
That's correct.
So we're glad to take you away from there. It might have been a little while back. We're trying to steal everybody from other Rotary clubs right now. He graduated from Clemson University, another one of those, with a history degree, and also graduated from law school at USC, so some redemption right there. He was born and raised in Columbia. Except for the time in Clemson, he's been here. He's been a soccer, baseball, and basketball coach for his boys. Spends a lot of time in sporting events with them through the years. He has served as head of the SAC Flora Booster Club. SAC, student?
AC4.
Yeah, anyway, it's typo. He's active at Shannon United Methodist Church, has served on their board of trustees, and now the chair of the church council. And he's a member and participant in Columbia Ball Cotillion as a former board member. Assembly, Centurion, Pine Tree Hunt Club, where he's a board member, and Forest Lake Club. His personal interests are tennis, son's sporting events, hunting, and hiking. They are at AC one's at AC4, one's at Clemson, and one's a recent graduate, and they have 2 dogs. And so I give you Lowndes Pope. Lowndes, welcome to Columbia. David Tucker, glad to have you. David is married to Mary Palmer Tucker. He was sponsored by Mason Hardy. He lives at McGregor Drive, 3700 McGregor Drive, in Columbia. He works for Tucker Oil Company, which is a family business, as the wholesale sales manager, correct? They're out on Iowa, down by the stadium. He is another Clemson graduate, Rusty. Been out doing some conspiracy on this here. With a BS in finance and a minor in accounting. So he graduated in 2015 from there. He graduated from Hammond in 2011. He's a member of Ducks Unlimited, the Columbia chapter as a committee member, and Clemson's shotgun team captain. So that sounds cool. His hobbies are hunting and fishing, of course, sporting clays, boating, golf, and Clemson football. Now, fiance, I called her your spouse, but are you 3 weeks? You're almost there. So all right. So Mary Palmer Richards, who I know very well. Congratulations to you both, by the way. And they have a yellow lab named Moose. And so I give you David Tucker. Okay, Paul Garcia, welcome. I had a little bit of a challenge. I had to go onto my LinkedIn, and now I'm all over the place. As usual. I know you all aren't used to that. So, Paul is married to Diane. He was sponsored by Glenn Matthews. He is general manager for, Paul, CN Hotel's your employer, but you are at which hotel?
It is the Hilton Garden Inn in the Home 2, on German.
Okay, all right. The one that took a few years to get finished.
Just, it had to percolate.
Yeah, you had to get it just right for you to be the general manager. I got it. Okay, so Paul's a graduate of University of Memphis with a BA in Hospitality and Resort Management. Attended USC Coastal Carolina, and I can't quite read what that is on my thing. But and also, were you in the Air Force as well?
I retired from the Air Force. Retired at the Myrtle Beach Air Force Base when it was open there.
Awesome.
Right before the base closed.
Awesome. Thank you for your service. Don't mess with him. He is into martial arts. And there's some kind of jitsu, but I can't pronounce the first word, but y'all can look him up after this. He did not go to Clemson University, but he might have. And again, his wife is Diane, and Paul, we want to welcome you to Columbia Rotary Club. If y'all would turn and face me for just a minute. Michael Kahn always did such a great job when he was doing this and introducing new members. And before him, we had almost comedian do it. Y'all would really liked it. But you're stuck with me. But you're joining a club that's part of over 1 million members around the world. It's an awesome place to be. Y'all have been here a few times now to check it. You've been members before. Very few places where you can come and be just as important as everybody else in the room, or not as important as everybody, because we're all Rotarians. And the idea is that we want to serve our community, serve the world as we can. As Wade so ably prayed the 4-way test in his prayer, we want to try to bring a little peace to every place that we can, as much as we can. And men, women, Republicans, Democrats, old, young, white, black, Hispanic, whatever, Asian, all these people that are just people come together in Rotary all around the world. So we recommend you get involved in committees, get to do a little bit about it. If you ever have a chance to go to a Rotary International Convention, it's really amazing. It's like going to heaven. And, so anyway, welcome to Columbia Rotary Club. We're very glad to have you all here.
Well, I missed my trip to Honolulu this summer, last year, so I missed my trip to heaven. It's temporary. But it's all in God's will. Welcome new members. We're glad you're here. Do get involved in committees, serve on everything that we've been talking about doing, which of course is the food packing event coming up, the bell ringing. And in the spring, we'll do a bocce bash. That'll be a lot of fun. To be determined on a date there. Membership, of course, is essential to what we do here. We need new members. Next Monday, November 2nd, we have another opportunity for those prospective members who may be interested in joining our club, like these folks that came today. It's going to be at 11:30. It's a Discover Rotary meeting here next Monday. Bring prospective members who are interested in joining the club, and they get lots of information about Rotary and our club. We appreciate all of you who are sponsoring new members this year. Everybody should receive their fourth quarter invoices in October. Please pay them, bring them up to date. Some folks are not up to date on those. Please bring them up to date as soon as you can. We're going to take 2 minutes now, 30 seconds per person at the table, to introduce yourselves to your table mates. 2 minutes, go.
Grace, so it's Grace Outdoors Day. What is Grace Okay, it's a billboard.
That might disappoint some people. See that up more.
Well, I'm deciding what I'm saying. Engagement on the billboard. That's going to be a fascinating topic. Over the last 30 days on the really at the top of your game. Oh, yeah. I know. Right.
Okay, hope you know the folks at your table a little bit better. As a reminder, I do see a lot of people sitting with the same people that they sit with all the time. So if you want to get to know other people, y'all need to sit at other tables every Monday, sit with new people, and get an introduction to those people that you sit with. For those of you who can hear me, okay, as I was saying, try to sit with new people next Monday so you can get to know other folks in the club. All right, without further ado, we've got our primary keynote speaker for the day. And to introduce her is Andy Shane.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. You know, a couple weeks ago I had Health and Happiness, and I talked about teaching my daughter how to drive. And for those of you who are wondering, yes, I'm still fine, basically. But, you know, one of the things I think about is that she has me to help her, to teach her how to drive. I'm her, you know, I'm an adoptive parent. You know, it's great. I never sort of imagined what it would be like to be a father, and it was 27 times better than I ever thought it would be. You know, I always tease it. I think as a guy, I always thought I'd have a boy and he'd be the center fielder for the Phillies, but I really liked tea parties and dress-up dolls, and yes, once or twice I've been made up in a practice makeup thing. It's fine. You get used to it, but it's something that maybe I take for granted, honestly. The idea that she has me, she has her mother. Not everybody has that. And I remember a few years ago, a friend of mine invited me to a talk that Frank Martin was giving for a group called the Centers for Fathers and Families. And I was really moved by what he had to say about what the group did, so much so that I donated 3 old suits to the group fairly early on. Then a neighbor invited me and said, they're looking for board members, and would you like to join? And I said I surely would, because this is an effort, a program that I think is really important, and something that, as I said, I've been able to share with my daughter that I think other people should be able to share with their children. And with, I'm going to let Pat obviously talk about the program and the center, but let me go ahead and introduce her. Pat Littlejohn is president of the Center for Fathers and Families, a statewide nonprofit that is a champion for fathers and ensures access to quality services through a network of fatherhood organizations. As program officer for the Sisters of Charity Foundation of South Carolina, Pat was instrumental in the development and leadership for the South Carolina Fatherhood Initiative when it began in 1997. She was an integral part of the formation and establishment of the center in 2002 as a result of a private-public partnership between the foundation and the South Carolina Department of Social Services, which has now expanded to serve every county in the state, so the program's been there. Under her leadership, the center has built a reputation as a national model, an innovative service provider, and an expert resource and effective policy advocate. Please, everybody, give a warm welcome for Pat Littlejohn.
They are blind by what they think they see when they see me. Like you, I have a past, but I won't let it define my future, because something larger drives me. Love for my child. The best of me, right here in my arms. This child makes me a better man. Not a perfect man, but a better one. I am a father. Maybe you know what that feels like. Maybe this is where we connect. So try this. Look at me again. See me. Tell me, how different are we?
There's no shortage of stereotypes about fathers. And there is certainly, most of them are not favorable. We have a tendency to want to make fun of men and make fun of fathers. And then if you add in a divorced father or an unwed father, never been married father, the stereotype gets even more unfavorable. It gets more negative. And we really have a tendency to want to label fathers and to label particularly these unwed fathers. And so we know what a lot of the stereotypes are, that they're deadbeat, that they're promiscuous, that they're abusive. I mean, you've heard them all. You've heard all of the labels of them. And so let's make no mistake. We have a crisis in this nation. We really do. we have a crisis about father absence. And if you look at it today, 1 in 3 children are raised in a single parent household. That's doubled since 1968. In 1950, 93% of children were raised in 2-parent households. And so we really do have a crisis on our hands in this nation around father absence. And according to the Annie Casey Foundation, it says that South Carolina is more likely than any other state in the nation other than Mississippi, that's right, to be raised by a single parent. 41% of children are being raised in South Carolina by a single parent, and 3/4 of them, of course, are by single moms. But father absence, really and truly, as much as we would like to make it that a character issue, there really are a number of things that stand in the way, particularly single men, divorced men, to being in their children's lives. And it's not just about bad character. And frankly, in our society, we have gone a long way with our own policies and practices and values and attitudes about men and about fathers that really have not helped the situation. And we've helped to create a nation of absent fathers. Okay. So the reality is that most fathers, they are dead broke. And so a lot of times and we often think of men as being the financial providers, and that when they are not, and men particularly feel less than, then they don't feel like the man that they want to be, and so they stay away from their families and their children, or they're not able to meet their child support obligations and provide for them financially. And then many of them are products of broken homes and absent households themselves. And they grew up as broken children, and now they are broken grown men trying to find their way without someone who had led them. But the truth is that they deeply, in spite of this, they deeply care about their children. And I honestly have been able to have the pleasure of this work for many, many years, and I've seen so many grown men cry about not being the kind of man and the kind of father that they want to be, and so they, as a result of that, they feel very hopeless, and they feel like they have been marginalized and disrespected. And you know, many years ago, our government really found as more divorces were coming along that we really needed to put some government programs in place to help provide safety nets for children. But now, unfortunately, what has happened is that in some ways, government has not become a safety net, it's become a substitute for fathers. And so we really have found that where men, you know, they really do, we just say, well, just pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. Well, I do that. Why don't you pull yourselves up by your bootstraps? And so a lot of men, though, really don't have the boots or the straps to pull themselves up by. And so there are a number of barriers to father absence, and if you start to think about it, and it's not just, again, about character, it's about not having a job, and a lot of that is a result of not having an education, not having completed school. There are a lot of fathers who run into problems around a hostile relationship with the mother of their children, and that's even further complicated by legal barriers. What you may not know, or some of you may know it very well because you've experienced it, is that in South Carolina, that when you have a child out of wedlock, the mother is named the custodial parent, he's the non-custodial parent, and that if she seeks government support, he's immediately put on child support. Child support does not guarantee you visitation. It's a separate legal action that you have to take. So the day that they set child support, they do not at the same time set visitation. And so, therefore, it leaves that the only way that a father can get visitation is to go back into court and pay legal fees, for which he does not have anyway, to have visitation. So he must rely upon the good graces of the mother to allow him to see his children. And so, and a lot of times, as you may know well from your own lives or your friends' lives, that you know that that can be a very difficult barrier to overcome. And then, of course, there's other things too, like a criminal record. You know, in South Carolina, I believe the statistic is that 1 in 5 South Carolinians have a criminal record. So if we counted off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there might be a few of you in this room. And right now, a criminal record is a huge barrier to being able to get a job and to provide for your children. And then there are a number of other issues that stand in the way for fathers. So I say all of this to paint sort of a, it does seem like it's a really bleak picture, but the reality is that the turbulent winds of our modern lives have really paid a price, and it's paid a price mostly for children. And so the things that you see up here are a product of absent father households. And it's real easy for us to say, oh, well, that's their problem, it's not my problem. But the truth is, it's really our problem, because when you look at the impact, and this is documented, evidence-based information about the consequences of father absence. Now, and we are doing right now a campaign called Dad Facts, and you may have seen some billboards around town about the negative consequences of father absence on children. And this is not an indictment on single moms at all, because there are so many single moms today who are raising children and doing a great job raising children. And that's not an indication that this is the guaranteed outcome. But we know how hard it is to raise children. We know how difficult it is, especially in today's society. And so the job is such a big job. We know it's a big job. It's too big of a job for just one person. And so again, this is saying that children of single parents have no chance. But children of two-parent families have a better chance. And so that's why we are so committed to getting fathers back into their children's lives. And we know that dads have a tremendous impact. You know yourself. Fathers have a tremendous impact, one way or another. Your father powerfully impacted your life, or he may have powerfully negatively impacted your life. It's going to happen one way or another. And so we know that fathers are typically known for being financial providers. And that's important. But it's the spirit that the father brings. It's his love, it's his protection. It's the security that he brings. I think of all the times when I was growing up, and I grew up in Saluda, and you could guarantee that when a thunderstorm came along, the lights were going to go out. But you know, I never felt afraid, because I knew that my dad was there and he always knew where the flashlight was. And you think about it. You think about the kind of protection and the things you didn't worry about. And I think today about children, and we need dads now more than ever. Think of how unsettling it is for us as adults. But imagine as a child going home, and going home to a home that's not safe, it's insecure, or you're frightened. And I know that so many of my friends and colleagues have often described growing up poor. And you know, thinking, wow, I never realized I was poor. But it was because they had a mom and a dad. And they have the love of their brothers and sisters and families. And so we need fathers now more than ever. And I really do believe that this mission of re-engaging fathers in family lives is the most important thing that we can do right now. I think it is the answer to some of our most pressing challenges. And so many fathers, they deeply want to do the right thing. And they'll be the first to admit their mistakes. They'll be the first ones to tell you that I've screwed up. But many of them are just finding that they have too many barriers to overcome alone. And where do I go for help? And think about it. There just aren't programs that help fathers. There are a few men's clubs and churches that have the pancake breakfast. But where do men really, really go for help? And if you think about it, when you look at the government programs and besides the educational system, the #1 serving agency of men is the Department of Corrections. In June of 2020, 16,000, just over 16,000 fathers were incarcerated. 66% of them had children. Probably more of them had children, but they didn't disclose it. 16,000, that's more than Lee County, Saluda County, McCormick County. Can you imagine a whole county where 66% of the children are growing up without a father? And so there are very few sources, so where do fathers turn? And so that's what the Center for Fathers and Families has done, is that we have created programs around the state that are uniquely designed to support fathers. What is unique about a fatherhood program, and why is it different? And you can't take a program that's well designed for single moms and just change pink to blue and call it good. That's not the way that it works. And so one of the things we have really purposed to do is to have men working with men. As a professional, I might could come along and tell you how to resolve your legal problems, or I might could tell you how to solve your financial problems. But as a woman, I can't tell you how to be a man. I can't identify with you about what it feels like to be a father. Only another man can do that. And so we have really said that men needed to find a place where they felt safe and that they could trust one another and that they could be open about how they feel. And it's to find a way to overcome that and to be able to get back in their children's lives. And so that we found that it was very important to create a trusting atmosphere, to not have a place where they felt judged, that they felt like they could get individualized services. It's not just thanks for coming in, here's our program, follow it. We really want them to create one that's for them. And it's so important that the men have peer support. We have so many guys who come in and they feel like, man, everything's against me, everything's wrong in my life, and then they'll get in peer group session and the next guy will start talking. And before you know it, he's like, man, I thought I had it bad. You got it really bad. It makes me feel a lot better. But then they also realize they are not alone. They're not the only one who feels the way that they do. And so that's why it's so important for us to be able to provide these programs. And so we have 6 regional organizations around the state. They all have different names. The local organization here in South Carolina is Midlands Fatherhood Coalition. You can go to our website, SC Fathers and Families, and find where all of the locations are. They're here on the map. And then our impact report is on the table in front of you, and you can see where all of the locations are. But we wanted to have a place where men could go. And so when men come into our program, about 60% of the men come to us voluntarily. Most of them are by word of mouth because they wanted to hear from another trusting individual that where they could go and get help. And then about 30% of the men come to us, 40% of the men come to us through an alternative to incarceration program. We call it Jobs Not Jail. In South Carolina, if you come behind in your child support by 5 days, the court, is called Rule 24, issues a rule to show cause. Can y'all imagine? Have you ever not paid a bill 5 days late? Can you imagine what that must feel like to be under the threat of incarceration because you were 5 days late? But that's the law in South Carolina. Men are ruled in, ruled to show cause. And then if you can't pay your child support then and there, you may have the opportunity that the judge would put you on, let you pay something that day. But a lot of guys walk into court and they don't know whether they're going to go out like this and go out the front door, or go out like this and go out the back door. And that's very possible and very real. So in South Carolina, and so for men who have not paid child support, perhaps because they didn't have a job, maybe they don't have transportation. So we were able to work with them to create an alternative to incarceration, because what happens when you go in jail for non-payment of child support, average sentence about 6 months, your arrears accumulates, so you come out of jail more in debt than when you went into jail. What job you may have had, what truck you may have had, what place you may have had, that's all gone. Now you're starting back from further behind than where you went in. That didn't solve the problem. And guess what? No child support was paid while you were incarcerated anyway. It's a modern day debtor's prison, really. And so part of what we wanted to do was to say, give us a chance and have this father come to our program and give us a chance to help him get back on his feet, resolve the issues that he has, help him get some training, help him get what he needs, and then we'll get him back on his feet again. So that's about how 40% of the men come to us through an alternative. And if they don't show up, we do let the court know they didn't participate. It's not a get out of jail free card or anything like that, but we do let them know that they didn't comply. So we offer a number of services in our program. These are all individualized services, but we also offer a 4-part curriculum. We offer it weekly, and we offer it at multiple times during the week and multiple times of the day, so that men are able to come into the program. And we do parenting, co-parenting, healthy relationships, economic stability, and men's health. We also have a nurse practitioner, and we work to help get men get medical services and to have information about prevention and about healthy lifestyles. The average age of the men who come to us is about 33 years old, and many of them are already on the track of developing chronic health problems because they've had a life of unattended health issues. And so we work to provide them transportation. We have a job readiness boot camp that we ask men who are unemployed to go through before we will assist them with finding a job. We have job coaches to help men prepare for employment. If they run into problems once they get a job, we have job developers who help them find jobs. We have to work very hard to help men find jobs who have had criminal records. And to also provide transportation. The key to working with men is that you have to move along. They are not very patient with come back next week. They really want to, they're problem solvers, and today I need help. What do I do next? And so it's very important in our program that we are able to move men along into getting what they need. And please, if you need, if you know someone, please ask them to visit our website. We have tons of resources on our website about how to establish visitation, modify child support, record expungement, but also where to find a program where they could get this kind of help that they need. I'm proud to say that we have served more than 20,000 fathers since inception. Most fathers have about 2 children and one on the way. I guess that's what 2.5 is. So we know that now we have served well over 50,000 children, and hopefully we've changed the course, not just of their life, but because they have an engaged father in their life, we are beginning to break this vicious cycle of father absence. So we know that there is no perfect family because there are no perfect people. And I don't want to skip over some of our outcomes from this past year, and I almost did that, but we served, in 2019, served 3,155 fathers, and you can see a number of the statistics there. But and those are also in our impact report as well that you can see. But here's the thing, that there is no perfect family because there are no perfect people. But we really want to take a father who's not engaged for whatever reason, help him overcome those barriers, get him the support and services he needs, that he can become the responsible father he deeply desires to be. I can honestly tell you, after seeing as many men come through our program as we have, I have never seen a father who said, I don't want to see my child. I don't care about them. And so I want to just leave you with today, what can you do? And I just want to ask you to encourage you that if you have a business and are willing to hire a father, would love to know that you have a job opening. Would love to be able to share with that. Andy would probably not let me ever come back if I did not make a pitch for board members. Where our local Midlands Fatherhood Coalition is always looking for board members, but we at the Center for Fathers and Families would love to talk with you about your interest in being a board member. And I'm sure Andy would be happy to do that as well. But today, I hope that we've given you some information that the next time somebody calls a father a deadbeat dad, maybe you instead would say, yeah, instead of saying, yeah, you would say, you know what, he might not be deadbeat. He might be dead broke. Or maybe the next time somebody says he'll never want to see his children, maybe next time you'll be able to say, here are some things that I know that stand in the way. We're not about making excuses for dads. I'm not going to stand here and make a single excuse for a single man. But I do know that we will stand there and we'll help them do whatever they are able and willing to do, and we'll take them as far as they can go. And so and most of all, just men, I just ask that you encourage other men, support other men, because they're not going to openly tell you, I'm struggling as a dad. But they are. But you come across men every day who they're suffering and they're broken because their father was not a part of their life. And they're struggling about how to be a good dad. But I just encourage you to come alongside those dads and support them. You can find us online at scfathersandfamilies.com, and we're also doing the Dad Facts campaign. There's a little bit more information there, and I've left a little bit of time for questions, but before I do that, I want to say a very special thank you to Andy for inviting us to be here today, and also to introduce you to Mark Hines. Mark is my colleague and a program manager, and we'll both be available afterwards to answer any other questions or provide you any more information that we can. But I really do want to take a couple of questions.
What is the impact of entitlements been to this whole problem?
That's a great question. When I was saying to you about substituting, you know, there were a number of years ago when we added up the cost of if a mother could access TANF, which back in the day was called welfare, food stamps, public housing, a number of those things, and you take that and you stack up the financial benefit of that compared to a man who's maybe making minimum wage, it's more cost effective, frankly, to have some of those benefits. And so that's where it has become, it's an important safety net. I mean, that's where we really need to look at some of our policies and practices. Another, and I'm not going to say it's an entitlement or a benefit, but one of the things that we're really trying to work hard with fathers right now is to show them how can we get you to get the next level of a job and not just feel like you always have to take the next minimum wage job. And of course he is, because he feels the threat of incarceration breathing down his neck for non-payment of child support. But how can we move you from this minimum wage job to another job that you're going to be able to pay more and be able to provide more of a livable wage for your family. Yes?
Of the majority of these dads, once they enter this program, what percentage repair their relationship with the child's mom?
So the thing that most fathers are able to do is spend more time with their children and improve the relationship with their children. I would say about a third of the men are able to improve the relationship with the child's mother. Our goal is not to get them to fall in love again. Our goal is to get them to be co-parents and to be able to work together and to show them that one is not better than the other, but the child needs both of them. They need both of the things that a father brings to a family.
Y'all want to get the rest of the questions after the meeting, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up.
Thank you.
Pat.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Pat, we appreciate all your comments and everything you're doing for the fathers of South Carolina. Here's a little thank you note, gift from us. And thank you all for being here and being available for questions afterwards too. Next week, President-elect Catherine, you want to announce who's coming next week?
Sure.
Okay.
Next week we'll have Richard Ekstrom. He's the South Carolina Controller General. Please bring guests for our Discover Rotary an hour before our real meeting at 12:30. We'd love to do that.
Great. So Comptroller General Richard Ekstrom will be here next week. Discover Rotary at 11:30. If you would like to introduce Richard Ekstrom next week, please let Catherine know and we'll get you on the list to introduce our Comptroller General. With that, we don't have Rusty or Audrey to sing, so we are going to adjourn the meeting without that. You're welcome.